Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Card Combo Show with me, Choco Billy. Right, so the first card I want to talk about is AMARANT 3-013R, a card that never gets played for the simple reason that his cost and power are fine, it's just the fact that you're having to dull him and sacrifice a forward. So his text is dull, put one forward into the break zone, choose one forward, deal it damage equal to the power of the forward put into the break zone. Now, AMARANT's one of those cards that gets better the longer the game exists and the longer he's legal, which I very much doubt he'll ever become illegal, but you never know. But yeah, the problem is that you're having to sacrifice a forward to break, well, maybe break something or deal damage to something, but a few cards that can make him a bit better, the first being Kimahri. So, pay 0, choose one forward you control that gains Brave until the end of the turn. You can only use this ability during your main phase and only once per turn. So obviously if you give AMARANT Brave and then attack and on the stack use his ability, that makes him much more viable. And a card that you could use his ability with is Preach. So she's a 9k, so she would deal 9,000 damage to something, or rather AMARANT would deal 9,000 damage to something by putting her into the break zone, but she's Brave, and when Preach is put from the field into the break zone, you may play one card named Preach from your hand onto the field. So you could have maybe, say, attacked with Preach first, hopefully she got through or was blocked by something. Then, on the stack, you attack with AMARANT and then dull, so this is assuming he's got Brave from Kimahri, put Preach into the break zone, deal 9k to something, and bring in this Preach, who will then deal 9,000 damage upon entry. So that is an attack with AMARANT. This is all using Kimahri to give him Brave. There are other means of giving him Brave as well, of course. But attack with AMARANT with Brave, then dull him to put Preach into the break zone, to have dealt 9k to something, and then this Preach will enter to deal a further 9k to something. So 2 packets of 9k, and maybe 2 points of damage as well. That's pretty decent. Another card that featured, I think he was in last week's video as well, but Rauban. So you play Rauban onto the field, he'll deal 9k to something, and also to himself. And then you respond to his ability on the stack by using AMARANT's ability to put Rauban in the break zone, so that's not as effective as the Preach play, but Preach being a 9k Brave, she's quite useful on the field, even if you don't want to use her ability. But play Rauban, deal 9k to something, and you've only paid 4, then use AMARANT to then deal 8k to something. If you've got Anacro, then he could also deal 9k as well. He'd still die with his own ability at that point, but yeah. Titan. Now, Titan is useful because if you, say, had a forward that was not quite big enough to kill something, you can cast Titan. That would probably kill something in and of itself because it's gaining plus 2,000 power, and then after that's resolved, you then use AMARANT's ability to then, let's say, hypothetically, it's a 7k forward. That's now 9k, you can then deal a further 9k to something else. Again, the forward has to go into the break zone, but hopefully you've taken out 2 things. Black Waltz 3, so this is a card that doesn't get much play either, but keep with the Final Fantasy 9 theme anyway. But when Black Waltz enters the field, he'll choose one forward, it loses 2,000 power until the end of the turn, and when Black Waltz is put from the field into the break zone, choose one forward, it loses 2,000 power until the end of the turn. So if you're using that alongside AMARANT, that's 3 packets of either damage or power loss, which could be useful if you're trying to take out multiple things at the same time. But you could say Black Waltz enters the field, minus 2k to something, then AMARANT, put him in the break zone, deal 6k to one other thing, and then the 2,000 power loss again to maybe the first thing or the second hypothetical forward. But yeah, so it's either a total damage of 6 and power loss of 4 to one thing, or you can split it up however you see fit. And then Wall, yeah, I like this forward. I think his card art is awesome. But so one of his biggest restrictions is the fact that you can only be played into the field with either Fire CP, Wind CP, Earth CP, or Water CP, and it must be 2 types of those CP. But more importantly, when he leaves the field, choose one forward, deal at 9k. So similar to the whole thing with Preach, you'd be dealing 9k to something, and then the other Preach come in and deal 9k. This guy's on leaving the field though, so you put him into the break zone, AMARANT's dealing 9k to something, and then Wall will also be dealing 9k to something, so 18k. Fun fact as well, AMARANT can put himself into the break zone to deal 9k to something. Right, RYDIA. So our first kind of promo card in this, well, I say kind of promo card, it is a promo card, but it's also now a actually proper legal card from a set. So RYDIA 11-083R/PR51. So her dealio is she gives category 4 forwards other than herself, plus 1000 power and brave, which is decent. And when RYDIA enters the field, if you draw 4 more category 4 characters, you may search for one summon of cost 1 and add it to your hand. So that's a pretty paltry effect, to be honest, but it's there at least. It's nice. It's better to have than not. So Golbez, not a bad shout. I mean, he becomes a 10k, so that's something nasty to have to deal with. Makes him harder to kill, although not to something like Diablo, but setting that aside, giving him brave, so you could always attack with him and then use his dull ability to be able to bring hopefully a forward in. Generally, if you've got Golbez in a deck like this, you'll have lots of forwards. It'll be kind of geared towards Golbez, but still, that's a nice ability to have. Then there's this Golbez as well, so again, giving him brave. Again, the deck will be, well, it's a Golbez deck, right? So there will be so many forwards or so many ways of killing Golbez, but keeping him brave whilst also able to deal damage at the same time could be quite useful. Him being able to just keep swinging, your opponent doesn't want to have to block him, but they don't really want to be taking damage either, so, you know, it's tough for them to be able to decide on how to do it, aside from removing him from the game. Obviously, there's a lot more viable ways of doing that now, but still, having him constantly dealing damage and standing up, that can be a pain. Cagnazzo, so his entry ability is decent, but he is a really good defender as well. So being able to give him plus 1000 power and keeping him brave so he can keep attacking if he can attack. He's quite small anyway. That's not too bad, but he can be applying pressure whilst still being able to stand up. If you're in, say, Earth, Water, and you've also got Walker on the back line up to keep him to 7k as well, makes him a bit more viable. Scarmelian. So this is kind of funny. Say you're in Mono Earth, you've got a Necro and RYDIA down, your opponent attacks with something, you back attack with Scarmelian, he's then a 10k. What? He's then a, sorry, a 7k, I don't know what I said 10k for. He's a 7k forward. To be able to pay 2 to bring in a 7k forward, it's not too bad. And then Sid Polendina. So one of the first kind of cards that was lesser forward, more utility, but an interesting one nonetheless. He doesn't get played much because just having Zidane do the work is better, really. But Sid Polendina, to be able to have an 8k Sid Polendina for 3, and he attacks, and then you've still got his dull ability to be able to look at your opponent's hand whenever you want. So it could be their turn if they can't block him or don't want to block him, and then just they draw as soon as they go to enter their attack phase or they go to do something. It's like, well, let's have a look at your hand first. I quite like that. Alright, so Palam's another card that I like to use alongside Zande, or maybe Phoenix, because of his entry ability to deal 7k something. But I think he works well with RYDIA, because obviously you can attack with him, he'll be a 7k, so he's a bit more online. You might even have Luca as the backup to make him an 8k, but you can attack with him, and then, because he's brave, dull a card named Porum to then deal your opponent a point of damage with Comet, which I think's just hilarious. One of the few abilities that can directly deal your opponent some damage. Talking of which, Porum. So when Porum enters the field, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card into your hand, but more importantly, she can pay 1 and dull, choose 1 action ability, cancel its effect. So she becomes 6k with RYDIA on the field, but if she can attack, that's cool. Likely she wouldn't, but even still, you can still cancel action ability if she does attack. Alright, cool, Kimahri. So Kimahri's a hilarious card, and I really like him because of his S. So it's an S, 2 Earth, choose 1 forward opponent controls. Kimahri gains its special ability until the end of the turn. You can use this ability without paying any cost, but only once. So, Sid FFBE, choose 1 forward, deal it 10,000 damage, and 1 point of damage to your forward's controller. So, similar to Porum earlier, Palam, one of the fire one. So you can deal 10k something, so you're almost definitely killing something, but you're dealing a point of damage to something as well. Now, it's worth noting here that Sid's S does have a dull, so this would mean that Kimahri has to be on the field for at least 1 turn, or have haste, before he can use Sid's S ability. You can't just play him onto the field and then immediately use Ronso Rage. You have to have had him on the field 1 turn, or give him haste. Barrett, another new forward this set, and same thing applies. Obviously he's got a dull, so you'd have to wait a turn before you can use it, or give Kimahri haste. But that's an incredible amount of value. So his Unga Max, an S, and I believe it's 7 Earth and a Dull, break all the forwards and monsters your opponent controls. So like a mini Shantoto. If you can do that for an S and 2 Earth, whew, that is a lot of value you've got there. I mean, obviously it's only really worth it if you're breaking a few forwards and a monster, but that's basically only if you control Barrett. If you're breaking anything, you've paid effectively 4 for Kimahri's S and you're breaking at least one thing, that's not too bad. It's better value than an Odin because you're paying 4, but obviously you lose the Odin card from your hand, whereas this, you're only losing the Kimahri card from hand. Sin! Yes! So your opponent plays Sin onto the field. Your immediate thought is, Giga Graviton. At the end of your next turn, if Sin is on the field, your opponent loses the game. You can only use this ability during your turn. Now, he doesn't have, or Sin's S doesn't have a dull ability. So you play Kimahri onto the field and then you immediately Ronso Rage. Your opponent has their next turn to get rid of Kimahri, otherwise they've lost. Now they've just paid 9 for Sin. Chances are, at the very least, they've had to discard 2 cards from hand and Sin itself. So even if they were 7 cards, they've still now only got 3 cards in hand and probably 5 backups. They have to get rid of Kimahri then and there. I mean, the chances are they'll be able to, but if you're playing a card like Sin, it'll be a Sin deck, and generally you have a lot of Sin protection on the line to stop Sin from dying, but not as much offensive, because Sin is the offense. He's just wipes the board clean. So if your opponent plays Sin and then your follow-up play on your turn is play Kimahri and then Kimahri's S, have fun, my friend. And then the new Vincent, so in Opus 11. Here, this card's kind of interesting because it's an S past a damage ability, so technically Vincent won't have the damage 5 Chaos S until your opponent is at damage 5. So even though there's an S ability on the card, it's as though the text is not there until your opponent is at damage 5. So you would require your opponent to be on damage 5 before you can use that ability. But if you can, Vincent gains 3000 power, first strike, and when Vincent attacks, choose one character, break it. This effect does not end at the end of the turn. Now, if my reckoning is correct, and I've double-checked this with my play group, Kimahri will get to keep this ability as well. One of the things with Kimahri's text is that he proxies himself in for any text in S abilities that refer to the card itself. So where it says Vincent gains 3000 power, it would actually say Kimahri gains 3000 power. So Kimahri would gain 3000 power, first strike, and when he attacks, choose one character, break it. That's not too bad. And Kimahri gets to keep that ability as well, hopefully. Now obviously you've got to remember that Ronso Rage does stipulate that it can only be used once. So you do have that to kind of deal with, whereas Vincent can use his Chaos S multiple times and gain the choose one character, break it ability multiple times. That to me seems a little wonky or broken, but I guess Vincent's easy enough broken through summons and whatnot. But yeah, Kimahri can learn that as well, and I think that'd just be hilarious. Okay, so another newer card, a Warrior of Light 11-044H. So when Warrior of Light enters the field during this turn, the next damage it dealt to you becomes 0 instead. Now, that's reasonable, because obviously it's meant to be paired alongside his pay 0. Choose one forward other than Warrior of Light, against 2000 power until the end of the turn. During this turn, when the forward is put from the field into the break zone, Warrior of Light deals you 1 point of damage. You can only use his ability once per turn. I'm not focusing too much on the paid ability. I'm focusing more on the stop a point of damage. So, Tama, you could Tama her in. This applies also to Phoenix as well, but I mentioned, I think it was in the last video or the video before that, with Phoenix, is that you can bring Warrior Light, stop a point of damage. However, Tama, again, Tama can bring in a forward like Phoenix of any element, so it doesn't matter if you paid all Earth for Tama, she can still bring in Warrior of Light. But Warrior of Light will be standing up this time, so he could block and then another point of damage come through and it not apply. So that's something worthwhile. Sabin, so a fair few, or a couple of Opus 11 cards that work well Warrior Light that deal you a point of damage, is Sabin's Ability, pay 0 until the end of the turn. Sarban gains 2000 power. First strike and brave. Sarban deals you 1 point of damage. You can only use this ability during your turn and only once per turn. So that would mitigate that point of damage while still gaining the ability. And then the new Dadaluma, who isn't banned. When Dadaluma enters the field, Dadaluma deals you 1 point of damage. That's to kind of even out his power and cost disparity, but you know, he's pretty decent. If you're at 3 points of damage already, then he also is brave and cannot become dull by your opponent's summons or abilities. So paying 2 for that and not having to pay the cost of a point of damage would be fairly decent. But obviously, if you are going to get yourself to that 3 damage and you're only on 2, then you might want to take the damage. But there you go. Zodiac! Yeah! So, like Gabranth, when you put him into the break zone, the next point of damage you deal becomes 0 instead. I can't remember the card code. Apologies. I should put it on the screen really, shouldn't I? Oh, here we are. Zodiac. If you control a dark forward, the cost to cast Zodiac Keeper of Precepts is reduced by 3, so it will cost 4. Break all the forwards your opponent controls. You receive damage equal to the number of forwards broken by this effect. Now, like with Gabranth, Warrior of Light, if you put Warrior of Light down first, and then you cast Zodiac, maybe with a Dark Forward already in the field, so you've only paid 4, so you've paid a total of 7 for Warrior of Light and Zodiac, so the cost of playing Zodiac without the forward, you won't take that damage. So if they've got 3 forwards and you cast Zodiac, you don't take 3 damage, you take no damage. It's a little wonky why that works, but suffice it to say that the next damage you take encompasses all of that damage. So, lucky you. You get to break a lot of things for casting 4, hopefully, and you don't take any damage. Nice. Renoa, yay! So, from my favourite Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy 8, when Renoa or a Category 8 forward enters your field, select one of the 3 following options. If the forward is card named Squall, select 3 of the 3 following actions instead. So choose one forward, dull it, choose one forward, freeze it, or choose one Category 8 forward until the end of the turn gains plus 1000 power and first strike. Phoenix is a decent enough card to have it work with. You pay 2,000. You pay 4 and you deal 2,000 to the board, and you can bring Renoa into the field, and obviously her entry ability will stack, so you could use it on your opponent's turn and you could dial out one of their forwards to stop them from attacking, or you could use her entry effect to give another forward of yours plus 1,000 and first strike. With the 2,000 damage you've dealt to all their forwards already, provided they don't have something like Minwoo, they will effectively have a 3k boost with first strike, which is quite hefty. If it's something like a 8k Squall, he's now effectively blocking for 10 and he's first strike, so he'll stay there for a while unless he's broken. So yeah, that's a nice little combo. Or you've got Zell, so when Zell enters the field, choose one of the 2 following options. Choose one forward opponent controls, deal damage equal to Zell's power, or choose one monster of cost 2 less your opponent controls, break it. So Zell comes in, his ability goes on stack and you choose deal something damage. Renoa's ability goes on the stack as well. You could stack it because they happen at the same time. Renoa's ability resolves first, so he becomes a 5k to then deal 5k to something with Zell's ability. He would also be first strike, so even if it doesn't kill the thing, he has haste, so he's now effectively attacking, if they've only got one blocker, attacking for 10k, which isn't too bad. Obviously you can also dull something out, or freeze them if they're already dull, but to be able to dull them out with a little hasty boy as well, that's not too bad. Kairos, I like Kairos. When Kairos enters the field, choose one forward your opponent controls other than Kairos. It gains plus 2,000 power until the end of the turn. If this Category 8 forward, it also gains haste, first strike, and brave until the end of the turn. So the 2 can work kind of hand in hand in a way. You can play Renoa, then Kairos. So you could give Renoa plus 2,000 off of Kairos and haste and first strike and brave and everything, whilst Renoa, when she came in, she could have dulled something. Kairos comes in, dull something, Renoa's ability again. Or you could give Kairos plus 1,000 and first strike if you had a means of giving him haste as well. So, you know, the 2 kind of work quite nice together with both their enter the field abilities. Now, obviously, this is where the combination is meant to lie. Something like Quistis, when she enters the field, should reveal the top 5 cards of your deck and add 1 Category 8 forward of them to your hand and return the others to the bottom of your deck. Yeah, I mean, she enters the field, she probably gets you a card because you'll be running a mono Ice 8 deck, like everyone did when this set first came out. Laguna. So when he enters the field, search for one ice forward and add to your hand, probably something like a Squall. There is the 3-cost Laguna that can also search just a Squall, but I went for this one because he can search any ice forward, so get yourself a Quistis, or you get yourself a Rinoa, or something like that, but he's just a bit more versatile and he's bigger as well. So searching and dulling and freezing something, nice. This Laguna, I still like to run this Laguna because he's an EX burst, and that's always nice to keep your EX burst count high, but when he enters the field, dull something. You could use that in conjunction with Noah's freeze, so you just dull and freeze something, but if you've got Squall down already, then you're dulling and freezing something, and then maybe dulling something else out as well. And then Squall, similar kind of weapon on the shoulder pose, almost like they're related. But when Squall enters the field, I mean, he's going to be doing a buttload of things, but also, because he's Squall, Rinoa says, do all three, so you get to dull something, freeze something, and give something, plus 1,000 power and first strike. And then when Squall enters the field, if your opponent's got two cards or less in their hand, choose a forward, dull it. When he enters the field, choose one character, dull and freeze it at damage 2 and at damage 5. When Squall enters the field, choose one forward. If it's dull, deal it 8,000 damage. So if you've got all 6 of those abilities coming online, ooh, that's a heavy swing for paying 3. Alright, Doga. I have recently made a deck with Doga, I'm really enjoying it, but he's a bit of a weird niche card. So Doga 10/078H, there is an H on the end of there. He costs a lot, but when you cast a summon across 4 or more, choose one backup of 3 or more your opponent controls and break it. This effect will only trigger once per turn. So he costs a lot, and it's limited in the backups he can break, and generally your opponent, depending on their deck, will be running a lot of, or a reasonable amount of lower cost forwards, because that allows them to ramp, and it's just better value if you end up opening up your starting hand and you've got a bunch of 4 or 5 cost backups. It's going to take them longer to be able to get more. But if they do that, or if they get a crappy starting hand, or if they just have a deck where they revolve around having a lot of high cost backups, then this card will come in quite useful. Alongside RYDIA. So you play RYDIA as well. Again, that's 2. I mean, Doga can sit there for a while before you play RYDIA, but that's still 2 5k cards. But she will hopefully cast you a summon. Now, I have a summoner deck based around this concept, and obviously you want RYDIA to be casting a summon of 4 or more, but there's lots of good summons for that. Diablo. So Diablo is the first one that comes to mind because obviously you can effectively make him free if you've got 5 backups, and you'll be hopefully breaking something with his 5 or more break it, or choose one forward of 4 or less until the turn up against the 1,000 power bit. You get to break a backup as well. Then you've got Alexander, choose one character or 4 more, break it, so you could be breaking 2 of your opponent's backups, so they might have a 4 cost and 3 cost. Break them both, one with Alexander, one with Doga. Hades, I like this card. I played him at the Nationals and I think he's fun. Choose one dull forward, break it. So it's just an outright break, so you get to break one of your opponent's forwards, and then the owner of this forward discards one card from his or her hand. So you've broken a forward, you've made them discard, and you've probably broken a backup as well with Doga. For paying 5, that can be a nasty turn of events for your opponent. That can really swing the game. If they back up something like Maria, where they were getting a nice field buff, that can be a bit of a pain. If you're getting rid of a Star Sybil that they haven't had a chance to use yet, that can be awful. I mean, just being able to make your opponent get rid of that. Or if you're breaking their Une. Sorry, I forgot what it was called for a minute. If you're breaking their Une, they've paid 6 for that. By any stretch of the imagination, that's still a pain to have to deal with. So that's quite nice. Or mean, actually. Then you got Sildra. So I like this card. It never gets played. Sildra is just one of the worst summons out there. But choose up to 2 forwards when it controls, return to their owner's hands. The problem with that being is the fact that obviously you're giving your opponent the ability to then cast something in response with having those cards in hand. They can have 1 card in hand and be I need to break this forward, but I can't. But they've still got 2 forwards on the field. You bounce them back to the hand, they now have the ability to break Forte with Odin or something like that. But using that alongside Doga, that can be a pain. If you do what I did and play RYDIA onto the field, she only cost 4 because I had Braska down, then choose Sildra, you're then bouncing 2 forwards and breaking it back up. Ouch. Titan. So this is a good little card. Your opponent attacks. You use Titan. Your probably saving something, you're probably breaking something, and you're breaking it back up. What does that say, really? That's just decent. Arc, yay! So I mentioned this card last week in the spotlight, but I wanted to mention with Doga as well, is that you can only cast Arc during your turn, all forwards lose 8,000